Bit of a small revision on the propane jet at the distal end of the flat top burners. I had a problem getting this 1/4 inch through here, so I do have a tapered steel. I'm not sure where I got it from, but it's tapered. I was able to dilate these up just a little bit. They're so close, and it didn't need much to dilate them up. So I've got that. I put this on here as my propane jet, but there's just way too much play there. So I bought a piece of 3/8 inch brass pipe and put it in my drill and drilled a 9/16 hole in here and just cut it off with my regular pipe cutter and made 2 little spacers, little brass spacers. So these obviously are both the same, one for each burner, but that fits in there. Actually, the spacer goes on first. That fits in there. And then the jet fits nice and tight. So anyway, once I tighten that up, she'll tighten right up. And that is about it. In fact, that's probably tight enough. But anyway, I had to also roll over, I'll use this one as an example. I had to roll over 2 of the ends, this end and this end, to get it through the hole in the burner. So you may find you need to do that as well. But that's where I'm at right now. I'm starting with a 40,000ths bit, which is a number 60, I think. Yep, it's a number 60 bit. So I'm starting with that and see how that performs and what I need as far as pressures, etc., to make that all work. The one thing about this grill that I found a little bit intimidating was some of the plumbing and some of the fixtures. But actually, once you learn about them, they're not really that difficult to understand. The thing that really is important is if you make sure that you test all these once you get them all in. Put your pressures up, get some soapy water, and make sure you test them. Very important. But anyway, high pressure hose to a regulator, high pressure regulator that is a variable regulator. I wanted that just more experimental because I wanted to make sure that I was going to be able to deliver the high enough pressures to this. Actually, these flat top burners burn just fine at 2 to 3 psi, so not really an issue. So anyway, that goes to this is a flared fitting on the end. So this is a flared fitting into a 3/8 inch brass T. So this is the threaded fitting. All these ends are threaded. These go to a right angle that lead out to a 3/8 flared fitting. Obviously a 3/8 flared cap nut. And then I used 3/8 again, flex copper. Now both of these are the same on the flat top, so it's pretty easy. One is just extended a little bit further. So bring it around to a cap nut. Now all the valves on this grill, the threads into the valve are 1/4 inch. So I've got a 3/8 flare on the left to a 1/4 inch MIP, or male iron pipe thread. That's what it stands for. So that same fitting then is on this side, and then facing out this way would be a 3/8 flare. And these little couplers are pre-made, so you don't have to mess around with flaring something that small. It's pretty tough. So a flared fitting again, right angled to a female flare. This fitting is a 3/8 flare stuck into there, and out into the burner is a 1/4 inch that I showed you earlier when I was making that cap nut jet for these burners. with the horrible camera angle, but the cap nut. Now this one down the bottom here is exactly the same thing. To the cap nut, flare, 1/4 inch MIP, 1/4 inch MIP to a flare, a little flared connector, that same right angle, and then into the jet that we made. So that's really all there is to the plumbing on this side. This is a bit simpler than the other side, but still, if you haven't done it, it may seem a little bit intense, but not bad. Once you get the lingo down, it's pretty good. Now, I could find all these, and I will state this later as well, but you can find all these fittings on Amazon. I'm not sure that I'm going to go through all these and list all these individually, but you can find all these on Amazon, and likely cheaper than you'll find them in the box stores. But if you need somebody to help you, like I did initially, I ended up paying a little bit more just to get the right parts. So it's a toss-up, whatever kind of needs you have to put this together. Just another quick look on the inside of that jet. I did have to round off 2 of the hubs of the nut on that cap to get it inside that burner. So if you're able to, put those 2 rounded hubs at the top, and then you can slide it right in. I've had this in and out a few times, so I've been able to do that. But another trick to get it in there, because those holes on the burner are just a little bit too small. So this would be the start of the piezo installation for the flat top burners. These particular pieces are 3/4 inch wide, about 2.5 long, and they've got a 13/32 hole. It's so close to a 3/8, but it doesn't quite fit through the 3/8, so I went up a couple sizes for the hole. This that I intend to weld on this side to the cross brace that holds the burner on the near side. Now, as you can see, this is probably a little more put together than from my last video. I do have the tank here, but I didn't put it in the carriage underneath, but I assure you that it does fit. I made this little covering for the valves in the front. It's 3 inches by 4 inches. It's about a 10-degree angle. I made these little brackets that just fit a crisscross cable tie to hold those in place. And then a bracket here on the side that has 2 fasteners to hold this T in place as well as it comes around. Was able to install the piezos right between the burners. I just cut a little piece of steel and welded a little piece on there with a hole that would fit the piezo. Ran it out the front, and I'll sneak a picture in here and see. Ran it out the front, drilled a little hole, and put holes obviously for that in the front as well. I just made slots for the valves. That was just as easy to do. And then I also made 3 tabs on the inside. I don't know if you can see that or not from here. 3 tabs on the inside, 1/4 inch stainless screws, and then I put nylock nuts on the inside. There's actually one about here. There's one relatively center, and then there's one here again on the other side to hold that in place. Now I did do some painting as well, and put some of the bright bits on here, as you might call them. Put the handle on there. And then also put the handle on the outside here so you can actually pull it around. Now I admit I am not a combustion expert, but I misjudged the air needed for combustion on these 2 burners. I had to lift the whole flat top up about 1 inch. So I made a block 2 blocks here, and this is where the leg fits in. Again, mirrored it on this side, and then put 2 additional 2 stops here for it to sit on. Now, as you can see, it sits above the top of the grill, but that is needed at this point to ventilate this and to get enough air into these burners to make a full combustion. Otherwise, the blue flame dances around in there, and the propane tends to exit, which it gets kind of ugly. So my garage is still standing. However, corrections need to be done. So I'm working on those. This is the first part of the correction. And then the other piece of the correction would be ventilating the back. So once this piece is pushed in, the flame starts to dance again. So I started making a couple holes. I got 2 things on either side of the grease chute, and I was able to make something big enough. Looks like about 2 1/4. Sorry for the bumping around. About 6 3/4 on both sides, and I got 2 little weld-in hinges, and then I put just a little bearing in there for a bolt. So let me show you here. This fits on like so. Put a little slot in there. And the bolt goes in there. Obviously fits through the slot. There's an adjustment on the bolt. I just put a nut and a big washer back here to adjust this. Now, I wasn't sure how big I'd have to open this up, so I wanted the flexibility. And then I just put a cap nut on the end for now, just to keep it all in place. So that is it, and those are ×2 on here. And I got the shelf all the way in on the bottom, and it's been burning perfectly now with these vented on the side. And like I said on the last video, with the flat top lifted up and venting out the top as well. So I think we're successful. Just an update. I put 3 mounts in the front, measured off about every 6 inches from the center for the valves, to mount the valves. And then before I painted the inside, I thought I'd better secure the piezo attachments. So I did those today. They're some are kind of at an angle, at different sides. I mean, so you have to kind of fool around with it, put it in place, and get it exactly where you want it and tack it. And that seemed to work pretty well. So now I'm in the process of pulling the burners back out before I finish some more of the plumbing. But I had to, or not had to, but I wanted to make 2 little brackets for these 2 gas lines that are going to the 2 back burners. And I'll probably just tape those off so I can keep the copper as copper. But I wanted to tack those in place as well, so they have a little place to sit on, as opposed to just in that big hole in the front and back. I realized after I started doing the editing that I really never had anything on the 3 burners as far as the plumbing goes. I think there's a couple unique things with this side that I didn't realize with the other side, and that each one of these burners came with its own jet, and it exited with a 3/8 inch flare. So this fitting is a 3/8 inch flare swivel right angle, and then to the flex copper. And then again, it's the same valves with the 1/4 inch MIP to the 3/8 flare, both sides. Now for this side, what I decided to do is the valve, this goes obviously to the burner, and the gas comes in from this side. So the arrow on the valve, you'll find one distinctly on each one, is pointed this way, and that's the direction of the gas. These particular ones, because the gas comes in here, the gas valve, it actually faces this way, because this is the outbound to those two burners that come in from the back. So it's the same kind of deal. And then I've got the input of the gas on the side here that runs to a T up to the valve, over to another T up to the valve, and then just right angles up and into this valve and out. And as you saw from the video, I ran both of these lines from the valve going outbound to both of these in through the side through a right angle, and both of these are 3/8 flare, 3/8 flare on both of those. They go in through the inside with a couple of brackets, and then again out the outside, 3/8 flare, 3/8 flare, and then again to that swivel right angle. And again, both these, the large burner, this is a 10-inch, and the 5-inch down here, both came with the jets included in the burner. So I just needed the right angle because I wanted to get, for clearance issues, wanted the right angle there, but that's that right angle swivel with a flare and then a fixed flare on the other side of the right angle. So that is the plumbing for that one. Not real complicated. Once you do the flat top side, this side was much easier, and actually I was able to order all these fittings through Amazon, and I'm not sure that I can go through and link all these because there's just so many. But I thought if I gave you a good picture, you'd be able to find them and kind of do your own thing with that, and same with the other side. So they are available through Amazon. They're cheaper than in the big box stores, but you may have to get one or two extra that you may not need, but it's still cheaper per piece. So that's what I did. Today, before I got started, I'm just going to go through kind of my prep work for the front cover on the right-hand side of the grill. This will eventually be, this is 22 inches long. So I pulled an inch from either side. It's a 24-inch width. So this full length is 22 inches. Each of these taller lines will be the valves in the front, and each of these shorter lines will where the piezos will go. There's a stripe on the back side of this, which I'm not going to turn around now, but it runs right about here, 3 inches from this side, 4 inches from this side, and that's where it'll be bent. If you look back at the pictures of the grill on the other side, that cover of the valves, and we'll duplicate that same angle. So I'll just cut it off here. We'll cut some, drill some holes here for the piezos, probably drill some holes here also for the valves, and like the last time, I'm going to put slots up here to slide this over the valves and then attach it to the front side of the grill. I'll eventually have to put tabs on here, probably 3 of them like I did on the last one, weld 3 tabs on for the bolts that will go on to hold this then onto the grill. In this process, obviously the slots are cut. These are 3/4 inch holes and slots. Drilled a hole at the top of each one, 3/8 of an inch down, half of 3/4, and then with a pilot hole, and then a step drilled up to 3/4. And then I placed, well, obviously these are center with all the 3 valves that are on the front. And I placed the piezos, which there is a space between the LP gas lines right here, here, and here for the piezos. So that's where I'm at right now. And next step, I'm just going to take a quick measurement again out at the grill. But I need to cut this line, and then I will bend that to the same bend as the one existing out there, and then re-weld it to that bend. Quick note about measuring those other angles. I do have two devices. They're essentially the same instrument, but one is digital, which is kind of nice if you want to know specifically or to be able to repeat it and set it. So this is the angle that was out there with the old one. It looks like about from 90 degrees, about 6, 5.5 to be exact. But I'll probably be using either one of these, but if I lose the angle on this one, I can set up a repeatable one by just dialing in that number. So anyway, that's the number that I'm looking for, the angle. Just a quick addition to this plate that we're working on right now. I did cut a little piece of plywood, determined this was about 3 inches from here to here, which is what we bent it at, right at 3 inches. I cut a 3-inch block, and then I put this angle, which is about 7 degrees or whatever it was, and cut it off on one side of this. So when I put these tabs on, welded these tabs on, I could set this in here, weld the tab on there, and get that parallel surface between here and here. So just a trick to kind of get those tabs in the same spot. I did put a groove in that. I'm going to put a 1/4 inch screw. I'm going to thread that into the front face of the grill, and then probably put a nylock nut on the back side just to hold it in place, just added insurance. Cut this at just 1 bit size, or a couple bit size greater than 1/2, so that there's a little bit of play in there, so it's not quite so tight. That makes it just a little easier to work with. So that's where I'm at. Now we'll hold it up to the grill as it is and mark those out and drill some holes and cut some threads. So we got the 3 holes in here to mount that. One thing I found, I had to take a little piece of this off to get over and above that to drill the holes. However, to thread that, it was interesting because this bit, not advertising for Craftsman, but 7/32 fit my 1/4-20 tap. So that was slick. I was able to get past there with the 1/4 inch drive, and the 7/32 fits right in there, and was able to get past the plumbing to get that threaded. Anyway, just a hint. Worked good for me. So now just an orientation. This is the back where the 2 burners kind of poke through the back side. And I was just going to cover these gas lines up just for fear of somebody bumping into them and bending or otherwise damaging them. So I did the same thing. I made a little angled metal piece. I cut some 1/4 inch threads here, made some tabs in the cover, as you can see here. These are 2 inch long by 1.5 inches, and then that comes up about 1/2 inch, that slot. And then this is 3.5, the top is, or 3.25 by 5.5, I believe, for the cover. And made a little bit of a groove where it kind of meets the leg portion there. We'll just hang it on there and tighten it on, and there's no really, this one's a pretty simple one here. I don't know why I made it into a hook. I just did. Felt like it being a little more creative. So there you go. That, I think, is the end of the build. I think everything else is complete. Do a quick walk around the side, left side Don't have a tank for that yet, but the hose is there. Gonna turn it. This is the flat top side. Doors are here. Flat top. And like everything else, I backed the two screws that held that hook on with nylock nuts, because I hate putting things back together because they tend to untwist after a while. So that's that side. We got the cover for this side on and the 3 valves in place. The piezos are there. Same top arrangement. My little lighter was for testing. Hopefully the piezos are working, otherwise that's my backup. Come around the other side again. Kind of the same situation on this side. Place for the tank, handle, etc. I did make a cover for this, as I noted previously. So that went on pretty well. And I think that's really about it. That's the walk around, and that is the grill at the end. So I hope you enjoyed the video, and I hope you're up for the build. It's a bit of a challenge, but I think, as you see, I think it's worth it. And it's got years and years to enjoy this. It's heavy enough steel that I think I'll probably need help to get it into the backyard. Anyway, hope you enjoyed it, and tune in for the next one. Here I'm back out at the garage with the grill again. I thought I was finished. I did some trials with the burner and the flat top, etc., and realized that this little rubber pad that I'd put on the top here for the cushion of the door melted. So live and learn. So I made this little cross, which I showed you earlier in the picture. I'm going to put it central on the door, like so. And then I'm going to take some of that, I'm going to put this parallel with that edge. And then I'm going to loop that fiberglass rope over that and secure that either with glue or something to keep that in place. And then the rope will go over on either side here and act as that cushion, and that is not going to melt. So that's the plan with this. I thought I was done, but I'm still working on it. Okay, now my second attempt at trying to get a cushion for these doors. I welded that little T onto the top of the shelf of the grill. And then I got some of that fiberglass rope again. Started with the center of a piece right here. Came up around the front and then back to the center on both sides. And then I used some super glue as they came wrapping around this way to glue them this way. So they've got a cushion hopefully right there for the door to set on.